Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler at Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. Leaders, the information on today's program was gathered from many different places and many different people. If you hear yourself in our conversation today, please realize that it's not all about you. But when you're ready to have me come out and do a leadership seminar for you or your organization, please don't hesitate. Give us a call, 727-422-1833, and get on our calendar as quick as you can. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to step out of my normal pattern just a little bit, not very far. It's just what's come up over and over. People have asked me, Dick, what's going on in our world today? And I'm going, oh, what do you mean? They said so many of our friends and colleagues have college degrees, and they've worked long and hard, 4 and 6, sometimes 8 years, to achieve that college degree. They're deeply in debt, and either they're not working in that field with which they endeavored to get that degree, or they're not working at all. Please take a look at this and let us know what we can do to help out or change that opportunity for these folks. Well, I've done some research like I always tell you to do. And the first thing that I have found over and over is that our guidance counselors in high schools are so overloaded with menial things, not really able to help students make good quality choices as whether college is something they should do or vocational school maybe should be something they should do. And the next situation that we need to conquer is our parentage. Now, I was grown up in a household of people that, boy, my mother, boy, got to go to college, and everybody did except for me. When it came time, there just wasn't those options for me. But my brother has an MD and a PhD and QIZ and more letters than you can imagine the alphabet. I had a sister who is a registered nurse, and I have another sister as a teacher. So they all went to college. Now, I did try it, but I found out that vocational school was going to be my better bet. And I got a job as a lineman, and I worked a 5-year apprentice program. And for me, I have to tell you, there was a lot of book work in there, and I didn't expect that, but there was. But it sure would have been great if someone had guided me and said, let's take a look at really how you learn, your learning style, your adaptability, and what you love to do. Before, I was kind of coerced to, you must go to college. I was working with a young man here just this last weekend at church, and I really did feel bad. He came to me for some advice and some opportunity and training on how to handle money because he was so far in debt with his college loans. And we're going to help him. Don't misunderstand. But he got that way because he kept believing the promises made by those in the upper level educational world. If you finish this degree, you're going to get a great job. If you get a master's degree, you're going to get a great job. If you get a PhD, oh my goodness, you'll get such a great job. And it just wasn't true. Unfortunately, now this young man has found his aptitude is something he really likes to do is in the engineering field, but not in what you're thinking. He's gone back to the vocational schools and he's found an engineering program working on these huge machines from a company that makes them, and they're green. Just, you might know who that company is. It was pretty amazing when he contacted me and said, look, I'm taking this job and it's a 5-year apprentice program. And what do you think? I said, well, do you get paid during yeah. I get paid. He says, I get a 5-year step plan, during as I go through the apprentice program. I said, what do you think? He says, well, I think if you help me, I would pay off my loans and I'm going to end up okay. You see, when I started really getting down to the nitty gritty and doing the research, some things I found were disturbing to me. One, that in the vocational schools, well, there's not as much time to be invested. Now, if you're on a 5-year program to be an electrician or a plumber or a lineman or whatever it is, it does seem like a long time, but normally you're involved in a union and there's a step program. And so as you go through the years, you're going to get raises. And of course, as you get to the end of your journeyman time, you'd be amazed what that means. The other thing that I found is it's mostly hands-on, very little theory. But the vocational areas still, I'll tell you what, if you want to be a mechanic today, an ASE mechanic, you're going to not only have to know your math, but you're going to have to know how to work the computers. And when you walk into an automotive shop today, a friend of mine owns Cooper's Automotive down the street. Boy, he has more electronics in there than either one of us could have imagined when we started in that program a long time ago. You see, just because you're going to a vocational school doesn't mean you're slow or dumb or any of those things that we have attached to that. That's we, the public, by the way. And going to college, just because you go to college doesn't mean you're going to come out with a large degree. Doesn't mean you're going to come out with a super duper job. And that is a real hard thing to learn. We've found that in going to college, it's a 2, 4, 6, 8-year investment in yourself, of course. And that's nothing wrong with investing in yourself. We will tell you all the time that, personal development is a big part of anyone's life. And it needs to be ongoing and continually putting through you. But the difference is, and what we found, is mostly theory at the large educational organizations. I had a bit of a eye-opening experience. I had been asked to come and do a little class on entrepreneurial business and getting into business, how to set one up and those kind of things. And I was in this college and I asked the question of these young people who were sitting there, and there was probably 50 or 60 of them in the auditorium, and I asked them how many had ever had a job. Only 1 or 2 raised their hand. And I said to them, how do you think you can learn business if you've never worked? You see, here's another way that in our public today, we're telling young people, well, you don't have to have a job, you don't have to mow the grass, you don't have to, shine your shoes, it's just crazy. And we've taken things out of schools where that type of thought process has been removed. Now, I know that I was one of those strange people that I really loved shop class, and I didn't really care for drafting, but that half a year of drafting taught me how to look at things in a bigger way. Taught me how to look at buildings and how they were built. It taught me how, when I built my own house, how it went together. Now, I wasn't real good at that drafting table, and some of the math that went with it, I struggled with. But I'll tell you what, it gave me an overview of what was going on. Now, during that time, I had the opportunity to also take a class on cooking because I knew that I was going to have to do that. And so I took a little class on cooking. And fortunately, I married a lady who's a real good cook and knows how to sew, so that was pretty good. But, when she's sick or she's not here, somebody's got to do those things. It is really a terrible thing to remove from the schools. We remove music, and music is a way to get the left brain and the right brain to work together. Yeah, creativity with math, with the sciences, with the English, and all the parts and pieces that go with it. You see, when we get the left brain and the right brain to work together, it becomes more than just theory that we're talking about. Again, we've removed that from most of our classes. We've removed art, where creativity was allowed to roam, and everybody's art was different. And by removing those, now they get through their high school education, and all of a sudden they're in college, and they say, gee, I don't know what I want to do. Well, they really haven't had time to experience things. And the guidance counselor, again, I'm going to stick up for them. They say I'm against them, but I'm not. They just don't have the time to invest in each child to help them through that decision making. So when I was asked to speak about this, it was to leaders. And leaders, I have to tell you that it's in my world, when I was hiring, I hired for enthusiasm and excitement long over college education. I did because in the job that I was asking these folks to do, it was going to be long hours, outside, hot sun, cold wind, rain, mud, and they were going to have to be able to have a humor about it. I felt we could probably teach them everything else. The one thing we did look for was I looked for leadership pieces in that person as we went through the interview process. And the leadership pieces that we looked for was people who could do things on their own, would take on a project with the thought that they might fail or not know how to do it, but they would take it on. They would use that creativity and excitement and enthusiasm to see it got done. So when I started looking through here, I started thinking about this. We really need to look at gifts and talents of the individual before we say, hey, go to college, or maybe a VoTec would be better for you. Maybe going out in the work world and getting some actual experience before you make that decision might not be bad either. So I put that on here. I put experience. What's your experience? And I used to ask people that. When did you have your first job? And they would tell me, and oftentimes they'd ask me, I said, well, I got my first job when I was 11. Started throwing newspapers. Did I like it? No, I hated it. But put food on the table, it was all good. I wrote down experience because the more experiences you have makes you a more rounded person. And the more rounded person makes you ability to handle the stresses and strains of a job better. I wrote down ability because I have to tell you, sometimes people just have a natural ability to do certain things. I've always been amazed that when I go out into the woodworking shop, there's just things I know how to do, and I have no idea how I know how to do them. Did my grandfather pass them down to me? I don't know. But it just comes natural ability. The learning style, of course. What is your learning style? Well, my learning style is hands-on. That's how I learn best. I've learned that I can read and put it on and go to listen to seminars, and I can get, that's a piece of it. But until I actually put it in place myself, I don't think it really becomes ingrained in what I'm trying to do. Now, I know that I'm different, so my learning style might be different than yours. But you need to know what your learning style is. You need to know what kind of knowledge you have acquired and built up. Now, this knowledge will come from the day you were born and who you grew up with, where you grew up, how you grew up, all those parts and pieces. We know that most of those things come 1 through 5 at home. And then young people go to school and they get mixed with a bunch of different kinds of people who have bunches of different kinds of backgrounds. And the teacher has a different background too. And now a different thought process starts to emerge. By the way, for parents, that's scary. I know that. This training goes along with being prepared. You've heard probably on my shows over and over that I have this little thing that we live by, and that's doing the research, getting prepared before you execute. The reason for that is we have found over and over, no matter where we're at, no matter what we're doing, that's a for sure thing. So encouraging young people, and they get in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade to do some research, maybe do a follow around. Hey, I think I want to be a garage mechanic. I want to work on fast cars. Well, do you think maybe it'd be a good idea they go and spend some weekends working with a mechanic and find out it's more than just driving the hot car, that it's underneath the hood, getting burnt on spark plugs, getting burnt by hot oil as you change it, having to lift heavy tires and when they rotate them. There's a whole lot to it. Knowing how to take and run the computer. I have a young man who said he wanted to be an electrician. And I thought, well, that's great. I'll see that he goes with it. Man, I know it's an electrician. And we set him up so he could spend some time during the week after school at the shop. Now, at the shop, the electrician normally does the bending of the pipes and those kind of things that need to happen where the pipe benders are. So he was showing the young man how to use the pipe bender. This young man found he had a talent for it. Found that he could really bend them better than some of the guys who'd been there a long time. And he signed up for that 5-year program, an apprentice. He's pretty happy. He's been there 3 years now. He's got a wife and a little baby. But I'll tell you what a difference it made in that young man who said, I think I need to go to college. Now, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I am not putting down college. It is for some people. If you're going to be a doctor, by golly, I want you to go to college. But even there, I want you to intern. And I want you to intern with the best people you can. So when you start working on me, you've had some practice, by golly. Some hands-on. You see, no matter what side of the house is, it still keeps coming up, this hands-on. It just really depends on your learning styles. How you learn. What are your skills that you possess right now? Were you like this young man that's possessed a skill he didn't even know about? What's the knowledge you came up with and around? What are the experiences that you've had? Have you traveled? Have you stayed in one place? Have you had a job? Did you throw papers or mow lawns or babysit or sew or whatever it was, work at McDonald's? I had a young man the other day told me he needed a job, so I called a friend of mine that owns one of the McDonald's here. I said, have a young man needs a job. He just needs work. She said, sure, bring him down. We'll hire him on the spot. I said, okay. Put him in the car, drove him there, and he said, I'm not working here. I've got a BA degree in accounting. The owner said, you work here, and I'll tell you what, the manager's position is going to come up pretty quick. And we're going to need somebody that has that background. But he didn't take the job because it meant starting out flipping burgers. That's a shame. When we think that we're too good for a job, there's a problem. When I tell people I started out my life digging holes and climbing poles, they said, are you kidding me? I said, no. And before that, I was a guy that pumped gas and changed oil. And before that, I bagged groceries. And before that, I threw papers. And before that, I made things out of wood and sold them on the corner. You see, nothing's below anyone to do the work. It all boils down to, and even going to college, it boils down, what are you willing to do to get to where you want to go? You see, if you can answer that question, and if you tell me, I'm willing to do anything, I'm going to really make it hard on you. Because I'm going to give you some things that you have to do to get to where you want to go. Most people tell me no. Here's the other part of it. If you don't know where you want to go, you're just going to take and sit around because you don't have a clue. This is another problem I see with the young people. But I also see it with people my age. They've had a 30-year career, and they didn't keep up on what was going on in their background and their career. They either aged out, or they had their number of years and they were asked to retire, or the company closed up, or whatever it was. And they sit around and just mope and say, gee, I can't do anymore. And you see, when somebody comes through my doors and they say the word C word, the can't word, I ask them to turn around and leave. Because I don't believe in can't. I believe once you decide what you really want, you're willing to go get it, you will. But that's the point right there. What are you willing to do to get to where you want to go? That's the question. When Miss Robin and I got married, her dad, quite frankly, Robin was in college, and he told me really quick, she's your problem now. I'm not paying another dime. So I worked 3 jobs, sent her to college. She got that degree, and she went to work in that situation for a little while till we had children, and we made the decision that she wanted to stay home and raise our children, which to this day was a great decision. But 27 years ago, she started her own company. Out of the house here, still running. You see, that education that she went and got really did pay off. Now, her mom didn't think it was going to ever pay off, because she was a girl and she was just going to get married and have babies. That's a thought process that needs to change. You see, these thought processes have been ingrained in our society for a long time. If you go to college, you're going to be a success. If you go to a tech school, well, you're just dumb. Those are terrible thought processes. This thing of going to college and coming out with $20,000 or better in a debt, I'm sorry, I just don't think that's real bright. Especially when most of them, it's in organizations or careers that are not going to make $20,000 in the first year. So, man, I'm glad I went through my apprentice program, just to tell you the truth. Now, I have to tell you that it was hard. I didn't like every day. I didn't like those journeyman linemen yelling at me sometimes. I didn't like that we were out in the rain or in the mud sometimes. But what I learned was dedication. What I learned was how to self-educate. You see, even as a lineman, we had to figure out all sorts of mathematical equations on how the tension of the guys and how far out to put the anchors and how deep to put things. And everything was figured out mathematically. And it was amazing to me how smart those old linemen were. They didn't use a slide rule, and they didn't use a calculator. They were just doing it in their head. Of course, I'd do it on a piece of paper, and they'd have it all done. And because I had had a few college courses, they called me college boy. That was a long time ago, by the way. But you see, even in those old linemen's brains, in their world, if you had taken a few courses or had a degree, you were a college boy, and to them, you were just dumb. You were never going to get this hands-on piece of being able to hang a cross arm or climb a pole or run the bucket truck or the digger derrick or whatever it was we were doing. Because in their minds, if you went to college, it was all book work and theory. But once you signed on in the journeyman program, you became a real person in their eyes because you were willing to take and put the time to make it happen. Now, I'm not saying which one's right or which one's wrong. I am saying in society today, we as leaders need to do a better job at helping those who are coming up out of high school, out of the organizations, and if they're in your organization now, even then, helping them find their place. That where they go, and when they get up in the morning, they're excited and enthusiastic about getting up and getting there. That's what I'm talking about. I get up every morning and I'm excited to take and get here and write out one of the programs or writing a new book or what am I doing? I'm excited to get on a plane and go and speak on the stage about leadership and accountability. And I've always gotten excited about that. You see, I found my calling early and I was fortunate to do so. But I was still working that everyday program. Even after I left the line crew and I left and went inside and worked in the office and worked my way up through the different locations before I became an instructor and then the head of all the instructors. You see, each step I had a goal. What was I willing to do to get to where I wanted to go? When I came home one day and I told Miss Robin that I was going to take a new job that was going to propel me to that next level and I was going to go into management as an instructor, there was only just one little downside. I was going to lose about $10,000 a year because I wouldn't be getting overtime anymore. I have to tell you, there was an interesting conversation at that dinner table that night. But she saw that I could see down the road. And then after I became into the instructional world and I worked my way up through that and I became the lead instructor, that money just really didn't mean much because I loved what I did. You see, it's a difference of getting up in the morning and being excited about what you're doing. So when I'm asked, hey, Dick, which is better, going to vocational school or taking an apprenticeship or going to college? I'm going to say it really depends on the person. It depends on what they're looking to do. What is their goals? What's driving them? What makes them happy? I get excited when I visit this young man down at the electric place and I check in and see how he's doing. And the owner just is excited and thrilled that he's still there. I believe in the next couple of years, as soon as he finishes his apprenticeship, he'll run the shop. I truly believe that. He just has that knack to take and see how things work. He can see it in his mind how it works and how to make it happen. Not everybody has that skill. So when somebody asks you, hey, should I go to college? Should I go to take an apprenticeship? Should I go to college? What should I do? Encourage them to go see a coach. Encourage them to work with someone that can help them look at all the options. Help them look to see what their learning skills are, what their experiences are. Put those all down in place so they can look at them and then make good decisions. And I'm going to encourage that young person sometimes to do that with mom and dad and without mom and dad. You see, I know how that works too. We raised 2 children. I had one who was entrepreneurial, ran his own company. And I have one who has a master's degree in accounting. You see, both sides of the horn happened at our house. I tell everybody that I ruined my children by teaching them how to be entrepreneurs at an early age because they both had their own companies at an early age. But it's something we need to work on, leaders, and it's our duty, whether they're in our organization or out of our organization, to help them make that opportunity and help them come up to that good conclusion so they can live the life that we all want them to live. Now, on behalf of myself, Dick Powell, and the whole Leadership Corner team, we want to say thank you for being a part of today's program. Our hope is that you've achieved a nugget of wisdom and guidance that will help you become a better leader. Now, if you have any questions or comments on today's program, don't hesitate. Give us a call here at 727-422-1833. 727-422-1833. Send me an email, dick@ewfw.org, dick@ewfw.org. Go to the website, spend some time, look around, and send me a note from there, www.ewfw.org. And you know what? I'm going to ask you this. I want to ask you how you're going to put some of the things you've learned today into your daily life, and let us know. And until next time, DW the Wrangler saying, ride hard, ride fast.